Okay, today we're going to be changing out these front forks on my bike because they're damaged and they don't work properly. So we're going to start by removing the headlight off the front of the bike here. You can remove this. We'll just do the 5mm Allen wrench on the key. And some of you guys can see the hole in the nut. My fingers. Rub through the nut and it's not. Okay. Assembly. Most there's not nut. Most of what I thought. It's like this one hole right here. So I'm going to trade ants 2 here. And we'll move the headlight, the fender lower bracket down here. Again, it's just 5mm. Keep that aside. Roll over here to the other side. And we'll remove this one. Okay. And as you can see, then the fender just drops away. Here's why I'm replacing this. The lock-unlock switch or lever doesn't work properly on this. And these have been bent in. This bracket here is bent in. It should be out about another 5 to 10mm. It's been denting, damaged in shipment. So that's why I'm removing this. Okay. So the next thing we can do is remove the wheel. It's got an easy out wheel skewer. So we'll just unthread the wheel skewer. It's got little springs here you got to keep track of, so I'll try not to lose those. Pardon the noise. This alley behind my house seems to be incredibly busy, I find. So again, you'll see here you've got little springs on either side of the skewer that you don't want to lose. So I'll put those again in my little lower tool tray. So with that, the wheel should just drop out, hence the term drop out. So we'll lift up slightly, push back my bench, lower my forks to the ground, and we'll put the wheel aside for now. Yeah, if you look down here, you can see this damage. These are bent in. This support bracket for the whole front shock assembly has been damaged from the day one, and I didn't know that except when I started riding the bike. So they sent me a brand new shock assembly. Okay, so next thing we got to do is remove this steering handlebar bracket. So there's a lock on this, and you just shift up or down, up as it turns out, and that exposes this, again, 5mm nut that has to be removed. And when we remove that, the entire handlebar assembly should come out of the way. So again, we refer to our 5mm Allen key. Okay. Aha! I've been misled. It's not 5mm. This one is bigger. Appears to be 6. Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to the 6mm Allen key. Okay, that's 5.5. And this is 6. Yeah, it's a 6. I don't think we're going to get it that way, so we'll have to put it at a right angle. You know, we might have to tap this out of the way so we can get to it, because I can't lever. Oh, I can, okay. That was enough. Oi. Of course, it's jammed into the hole, so now we got to get a little rubber bungee hammer. Tap that Allen key back out of the... Okay. Yeah. We don't have a lot of room here, unfortunately, to turn this, but B is just enough. Maybe I can try it overhead now. It's loosened up. Yeah, now I can get it. Okay, let's see if that feels loose enough to lift out the entire steering. Yeah, it just came right out of there. And you'll notice this unique design here. It's got kind of a spline shim that pulls up to tighten in the hole. That goes towards the front of the bike. Okay, we'll put this on the ground here, and I'll put this on some matting so as not to damage the handlebar electronics assembly. Now the next thing you got to do is remove this lock ring, which has 2 holes in it, big pinholes. So I've got a tool I made up or got from another source that we're going to try on that. I'll go get it now. Okay, here's the tool I have. I'm sure you're all saying, where the heck did you get that? It came with an overhead barn door set of rollers, and it's got adjustable pins that you can put into the holes of lock rings like this. Now if you don't have a tool like that, which I'm sure most people don't, what you can do instead is use a pair of needle nose pliers, which of course at this particular moment in time I can't locate. Let me see if I can find my needle nose pliers, which shouldn't be just thrown on a heap as you think when you look at my tools in this garage. You probably think this guy's a very messy mechanic, but normally I'm not, and I would be able to find those. However, I'm going to bypass for that for now. So I'm going to use the tool I have, but again, you can just use the tips of a pair of needle nose pliers to effectively do the same thing. Now this is very loose, which probably accounts for the fact that I always found a lot of rattling in the front end of the bike. You take this off, and underneath it there's a thin metal shim with a key lock on it that goes in the shaft. If you look at the shaft here, it's got a key lock, and so is this lock ring. Okay, so we'll put that aside. Okay, and then underneath that is yet another lock ring. And again, this one is very loose, which again disturbs me greatly, which is probably why I notice my bike rattling all over the place in the front end. So you thread that one off. And it's got a much bigger threaded collar. But again, it's so loose. I was wondering why my bike was rattling. And you see it has an edge, and there's a bit of grease on it. So you put that over here. And then lastly, there's a bearing set in here that you don't have to remove. It just sits in there, a ball bearing. Now at this point I should be able to just lift out the entire lower fork, except for one last thing I should have removed earlier, which is the hydraulic brake assembly right here. And I believe it's a number 5. Yeah. And it's tighter than anything else I've tried to remove. Okay. Set that aside. Put the bolts up here for now. Oh yeah, it's really tight. I think I adjusted this, which is why it's so tight. Okay. Oh, pardon me, I'm way out of frame here. Okay, so this is the last thing that you need to disconnect from the fork assembly. They were put in with Loctite, which explains my difficulty. So just lay that aside. It's still attached by the hydraulic line, so of course you can't pull it off completely. So put these 2 bolts over here. And now the fork assembly, which is down here, should come right out. So just carefully, yep, look at that, it just falls out now. So lift this out carefully. And gently let the bike assist. I've got my bike propped between 2 sawhorses with wooden dowel sticks holding it up. Now if you notice at the bottom of the old steering hydraulic system, there's again a ball bearing and another dust seal. So you want to lift those out carefully because they're going to have to go onto the new one. Put that aside. And lastly, there's a rubber dust seal you need to remove as well. So we'll just pry that up gently with a small, oh, maybe it doesn't come out. Oops, I take that back. That appears to be the end of the row as far as removable parts. Maybe not. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's it. So hopefully that bearing race is in fact on the new unit. Okay, we're about to find out when you compare the new unit to the old one, so you can see the damage I'm talking about. So that's the old unit there. The new one's here. So I'll just cut off this plastic wrapper. And you can see the damage I'm talking about. When you put the forks side by side, it's pretty evident that there's been a lot of damage done. If you look down this way, you can see that the whole mounting assembly has been compressed inwards and damaged as compared to the new fork. So it's no wonder I was having difficulties with this fork when I was riding my bike. Okay. Other than that, everything looks identical here. So I think we're in business. Okay. So we'll put the old forks aside for now and bring the new one in. Now they don't say anything about lubrication, but I've got a bit of motor oil, machine oil that I don't see a problem with putting on here. So I'm going to put a bit of lubricant on here, just a drop or 2, before I put this bearing back together. So I've got some silicone lubricant here. Don't use WD-40. It is not a lubricant. It's a solvent for loosening fasteners. So I'm just going to spray in some of this if I can get this thing to work. Of course, I've had a problem with this can. I broke off the nozzle, so it's rather awkward to get any lubricant to spray out. I'll have to use a Allen key as a way to eject spray out. Okay. We'll just rub that around there liberally. We'll put the old dust seal and the old lower bearing back down. They seem to fit nicely. Again, I'll probably apply a bit of lubricating spray in here. And then we'll slide it up the tube like so. Okay, so far so good. Now you'll notice there's a lot of play in here because you need that top bearing and the lock ring to hold everything in place. Okay, so first the lower lock ring goes on. I hope. If the threads are the same, which I'm assuming they are, since they sent me this as a replacement. Okay, there we go. Now this should match up to the race. And I'll begin against probably a lot of people's wishes, going to put some lubrication spray down there. Just because I like to lubricate stuff. And this is a good silicone lubricant. This is not WD-40. This is a silicone spray lubricant. Oh, I'll get my chair here in position. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's a very long threaded process going on here. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Again, I said you don't need that special little wrench I have with the 2 pins. You can just use a pair of needle nose pliers that you put the prongs, the tips in, and turn this. Okay. Now comes the critical part. You want to get the forks perpendicular to the body of the bike before you finally tighten up this lock ring. And I'm going to use my little specialized wrench to do this. At least I hope I am. Yeah, it just fits. And when you tighten this, you want to make sure that you don't have it so tight that you can't turn your steering handlebars, but you want it tight enough that it's not going to come off too. So you want to snug this up pretty good. Okay, that looks good, and there shouldn't be any play. Now when I go up and down, there's no play. Back and forth, there's no play. There shouldn't be any play, but it should turn easily, like you can see, like that. Okay, so you put that down, then this little lock ring goes down, the spacer, and finally this top dust cap cover goes on. And again, I'm using my little pin tool here. This is more of a cosmetic thing, so snug should be good for that. And beautifully, you can see that I got lots of mobility here, but it's not, I'm not feeling any stiffness, any tightness. The steering is pivoting perfectly, but snugly, and there's no clunking back and forth. It's completely firm in there. Whereas when I first got this bike, it wasn't, and I'm assuming that was because it was damaged. Okay, so now I can put back the complete handlebar shaft, and it should just drop down nicely. And you want to make sure that they're straight when you put this together, obviously. So you probably have to tilt it at an angle and then check it a few times. Oops. And make sure that you've got the fork straight before you tighten this down. That looks not bad. Just try it one more time. A little out maybe. Let's just hold the handlebar or forks with my leg and pivot this a bit. Okay. That looks pretty good. So just open this up. A little jiggling it around. And do it up with that 6mm Allen key, which I have right here. And this should be, you know, fairly snug. Remember, this is what's holding your handlebars to the fork assembly. So you don't want this coming loose. This is what controls whether or not you can steer your bicycle. So I would suggest you torque this sufficiently that you're not going to have a failure at this bolt. This bolt is critical in making sure you can steer the bike. So I'm not, unfortunately I have no torque specs for this, but you know, you want this tight. It's got a, you know, a friction shim, as you saw, like a diagonal shim friction fit, but you want that snug. Okay, we'll just check it one more time. Looks pretty straight. Okay. Do up the handlebar lock and put the bike up. Looks good. Okay, at this point we're actually ready to reinstall the wheel. Believe it or not. Okay, so at the bottom, when you get these forks new, they have a little plastic axle protector here for the dropout, so take that out. Now at this point, I think I'm going to reattach the hydraulic brake caliper because it'll be impossible to put it in afterwards. So it goes in behind like this, but I'm only going to finger tighten it for now so I can fit the brake disc rotor in between the two little pads here. So here's my 2 bolts. Oops, boy, out of frame here again. Apologize. That one in, the lower one now. And do those up. The 5mm Allen key, which I have back here. All you're going to use a 5 and 6 Allen key wrench to do this job, which is incredible when you think about it. And a pair of needle nose pliers. Like I said, you don't need that little tool I'm using, although I must admit it does make it quite handy to tighten up the steering column. I'm beginning to think this is a 5.5, but this is a 4.5. Pardon me, I'm using the wrong wrench. That would explain a lot of things. Aha. Here we go. Wrong wrench. Makes a big difference. Whoops. I'm still managing to use the wrong wrench. I've got a 5.5 here when I want a 5. Here we go. Finally, after the 3rd wrench, we got the right size. Yikes. Okay. I'm just going to finger tighten these for now. Actually, that's a bit too tight already. Actually, these should be tight. It's the side ones that you have to worry about. These ones here. These ones are a fixed position, so I take that back. So you can snug these up. Okay, that's sufficient. Okay, now we're ready to roll our wheel back into place. Okay. I have my wheel clamped here so I don't have to fumble with it as much. I can just lift up. I think I can just lift up. And roll this back into position. This might end up being in the way. I'm going to remove that. Okay. Okay, we're sitting on the dropout, both sides. So next we can put back our wheel skewer. Okay. There's half of it. We just have to find the other half with the spring. Okay, there's one half, and I need the little spring that goes with it. And of course, everything's black on black, it's hard to see. Okay, so the tapered end goes towards the wheel. on both sides. Now I recommend putting the tightening clamp on the side opposite of the disc brake assembly, just so it doesn't interfere with anything to do with your disc brake. And we just thread it up. Should go in quite easily. You shouldn't have to force anything. Remember, this after all is supposed to be a hand operation using this. Okay. When you've got it sufficiently snug, press in, and the wheel should be locked in the dropout. You're almost done. We're almost home here. We're almost home. Okay. So lastly, we need to reattach the front fender and the headlight assembly. So we bring this up into position. Using the appropriate, again, 5mm bolts. Okay. Now it's also already so shouldn't slow anything there. I'll give it a size. Everything just going very smoothly. Of course, because you guys have the cleanup for the bolts, but that's okay because they don't have to mount the plastic, so you want to first add the bolts. I'll try to do this with the wrench as the driver here. I can feel it enough I won't strip it.
I decided this next part should be speeded up because it's a bit ridiculous for you guys to watch me put a fender on.
Not started yet. Yikes. There's some dirt around here. I don't think these guys did a very good job tapping these holes. They seem to be rather negligent. Holy doodle. Like, what the heck is going on here, people? Yeah, there's some paint stuff around the threads. It's really, oh, there, I've got it started now, I think. Yep.
So, in my...
Sorry about that. My lovely wife had to come and ask me a question. So you might hear her in the background for a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, so now we'll put the lamp back on. Assuming we can find the assembly. Here it is. I don't want to 5mm, not some. Oh, you can see it. Here it is. And up here. That's the next and hand feel this one. So we'll bring it back around and pick this up. That's the back. Now she brings the wrench. And go. And pick this whole assembly up. I think we're going to use a 10mm socket on the back. Here's a backer to hold this. Since it's got a 10mm nut on the back, it'll just make it faster. Yeah, that's much nicer. I give an exceedingly long bolt here for this headlight assembly. I'm not sure why, but I guess I shouldn't complain. It's better it's too long than too short, that's for sure. Fine. Listen, I'm trying to keep on forever. Okay. Not bad at all. Okay. this concludes this particular operation. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.